Let's start today's webinar. Success and failure, different paradigms, same process. On 4th of July at 7 p.m. according to Indian Standard Time. It's a free webinar and the participants will be receiving an e-certificate for the same. Steps to avail e-certificate are as follows. Attend the complete webinar. When you see thank you on the screen, there will appear a link to Google attendance form in the chat box. Click to mark your attendance and get the feedback questionnaire emailed. Fill the questionnaire you get in the mail for your details. Follow our page. Whether you did or not is also in the questionnaire. If you did and replied in the affirmative and actually did not follow our page, you will not get the e-certificate. If all the above stated steps are followed, automatically an e-certificate will be issued online to you within 24 to 48 hours. Mentor Mitr is a mentoring organization where individuals are taken in the journey from where they are and where they aspire to be. It's a mentoring organization with various programs which are customized and included according to one's personalized needs. We welcome our today's speaker, Ms. Nisha Gupta, for the webinar. Grooming and Soft Skills Development, Ms. Nisha Gupta is an independent image and ET consultant. She works with organizations and individuals to bring forth the best version of themselves. Ms. Nisha Gupta is her career spanning 20 plus years has rich experience in varied industries like hospitality, advertising, public relations, art image, and ET consulting. She has been able to successfully launch various brands. Ms. Nisha has conducted numerous training and programs on image management and business ethic for students of MBA and degree colleges.
Ma'am, you can start talking.
I don't think Nishima is on yet.
Ma'am was just here. I think she dropped off. Just a second.
We all request the audience to post their questions and we'll be happy to answer them at the end of the webinar. Please feel free.
Ma'am, we've introduced you. You can start enlightening the audience.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mentor Mitra, the entire team, for having me on this platform. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's joining us today. We had a little example of if things can go wrong, they will go wrong, swords or Murphy's Law, as we started out. But that's great because our topic today is really success and failure, different paradigms, but the same process. So a very warm welcome again. Let me start with a little story. A story about the Buddha. Once, when the Buddha was meditating, there was a woman who came rushing to him, crying, carrying her child who had passed away. Sorry, it's a little macabre, but she was crying and wailing, and she came to him and said, "Oh healer, oh Buddha, I hear that you're the one that can do anything. You're the miracle man. You can do whatever. Help me. Bring my child to life. Bring my child to life." So the Buddha just looked at her and then calmed her down, and he said, all right, calm down. I'll try, but you need to do something for me. Can you just take a small bowl and go to any home and get me some mustard seeds? She thought this was an easy task because in India, mustard seeds are used in daily cooking. So as she was leaving, he said, but just a moment. When you go to the home, make sure that you get me mustard seeds from a home where there has never, ever been a death. The woman went away, knocking on door after door after door, but there was no family where they had not seen some relative's death. She came back and said to the Buddha, I could not find the mustard seeds you asked me because there was no home where there had not been any death. And the Buddha just smiled at her and said, and that is life. And that is life's processes. Where there is birth, there will be death. There is nobody who can escape the processes. And this analogy I use to tell you that in life, there will always be things that are a part of the process of life, opposing forces, different ends of the polarity, things we see in daily life, day, night, hot, cold, valleys and mountains. And similarly, success and failure, they're all a part of the fabric and the process of life itself. But if you ask me, I think they have a chemistry. They are actually allies. They are catalysts for each other. The presence or the lack of their presence can drive us to the other state. And I think they kind of made a bond and a pact. Hey, said failure, you know what? I'm your friend. But in this life, I am going to wear the garb of discomfort and I'm going to prod you. And that's what happens. For the fear of failure and the repercussions of that failure, what happens is that we get out of our comfort zone. We try our best. We try to do better in life for that perfect job, for that wonderful partner, for that great relationship, for more money, if nothing else, to live up to people's expectations. So what is success really? Success is these tiny, mini, little trials and errors, if that's what you call them, mini failures. So success is really riding pillion on these little failures. And so failure has done its job. It's prodded us to better ourselves. And if success gets complacent and rests on its past laurels and past accolades, what it's doing is setting itself up for backsliding, for having a shelf life, a use by date kind of redundancy. And there again, They both have a chemistry amongst themselves. And that's really sad that success gets a good name and failure gets a bad name, because just like the Buddha said, this is because that is. Things arise because of a certain set of conditions and causality. And when those conditions go away, there's no more, of the same scenario that's left. So actually, they are completely intertwined. And that's the secret sauce of life, actually. The secret sauce of life is that a wise person is going to use the lessons from every time that they fall, all the pitfalls that they have when they pick themselves up. The lessons that they're going to learn are the ones that are going to carry them forward and prevent them from creating the same mistake. Yes, mistakes and failures are a part and parcel of life. And if you're not making any mistakes and do not have any failures, then you're not making any progress. But the thing is that each and every life is unique. And each one of us has a different set of patterns, no matter what the paradigms, but we have a unique set of patterns that play out in our life. And it's not magic, it's not occult, it's basically our thoughts, words, emotions, and our repeated habits, which we see in the environment. And this is where the real work needs to be done. This is where we need to learn our lessons every time there is a pitfall. We pick ourselves up and learn these lessons. And this is the secret source of experience. But is that what we are taught or shown out into the real world? We're not. What we see is only a very small slice, the tip of the iceberg. We see the tangible. We see the allure, we see the glory, we see everything that is looking luxurious and grand and successful and the ascent. And that's what we see. And unfortunately, success comes with what is known as the iceberg effect. The secret sauce is not what we can see. The secret sauce is what we cannot see. May I please have the next slide just to show the viewers? What people see is just a very thin slice. But what people cannot see is the sweat and the blood and the toil and the growth mindset and the daily discipline and the staying healthy and the goal setting and the sacrifices and the really hard work and the pitfalls and picking oneself up again and again and again till the tip of the iceberg is seen. So I think somewhere the whole shift needs to also be in the way people are hired in jobs, in the way when we educate our youth, and the way when hiring managers actually are taking on, and that shift has happened, is that when they see a glowing CV, they need to smile and say, yes, your CV is glowing. All the qualifications are brilliant. But tell me, what is your biggest challenge where you failed? Tell me, how did you feel? Tell me, what were the emotions? Tell me, what did you do at that very dark hour? How did you pick yourself up? How did you navigate the situation? How did you change it? Because in that lie the answers to what is the success quotient of that person. Are they adaptable? Do they have emotional intelligence? Do they have perspectival intelligence? Can they pick themselves up and move out and work with adversity? Can they actually not shrink with the fear, but actually use that as a lesson in the process and expand? And therein lie the answers. So when we show this kind of, or when we see this kind of iceberg effect, we somehow forget to look at the secret source of the mix of that failure, which is down mixed with the sweat and blood. And that's what the focus area needs to be. That's where we need to shine the light each time. May I go back to the next slide, to the previous slide, please? To the previous slide, please. Where we were before this, please. The one before this, please. All right, while we're still trying to find that slide, not to worry. The slide before this. The pointer so that people can just see. And if you can't, don't worry about it. I'll just continue. So if this is what it is, then how about in this very modern world where everybody is becoming very sensitive to inclusivity, to understanding diversity, to using correct language and correct words for differences. Why don't we change the vocabulary that we use for success and failure? I mean, success is a positive outcome. It's an achievement of a goal, and failure simply is just not that outcome and perhaps not aligning with that goal. However, that's not what fears people. What the fear is the emotions that are attached to that word fear. Success has glowing appreciation and awards and an upward ascent. And failure, there's gloom and there's shame and there's doom and there's depression and there's tears and how will I show up and what will I tell the world? And is that fair? Is that really fair? Because if they are lessons, if they are the pain points, if they are the signposts, why can't we treat them with a different language? So I was just thinking, why can't we actually use a phrase? Why can't failure be a scanner for previously unidentified obstacles, or a compass for navigating life when we are lost, or a pause for recalibrating, or a retreat for rejuvenating, or practicing till we're perfect? Signposts. Doesn't that just take the pressure off us? So, as a young kid of an army officer who also fought battles, I was the youngest in my class and I was always playing catch up, and we were always moving from place to place. And in playing this catch up, I wasn't doing very well academically. And there was all that embarrassment and shame that was associated with some of my report cards, which would have all these red lines. And those red lines became such a huge inner critic of me that it became paramount. The inner critic now kept telling me, even when I had achievements later, that, oh, you're just winging it. And even when I did things well, there was always that fear driven by those red lines, which was, oh my God, there has to be this imposter in me. So it was like an imposter syndrome. And then when I worked for praise and I wanted appreciation. But when I took a pause and I took time and I reflected and I did the inner work, and it took time, it was hard work. When I did that inner work, I understood that those pain points were actually pointing to my purpose. And my purpose today as an image and an etiquette coach is really to work with people. And when we say, put your best face forward, give your best impression, it isn't about a veneer. It is about that effort that you make to bring about a metamorphosis from within. So, Brené Brown, the wonderful author, and whose TED Talk has been watched the most, The Power of Vulnerability, says to us, a courageous person actually shows up in an arena. She likens life to an arena. And she takes this from actually a speech, which I'm going to read out a little later, from The Man in an Arena by Theodore Roosevelt, where she says, when you show up with courage, revealing your vulnerable self, letting your guard down, please know that you are very courageous. Please know that when you let your guard down, you're opening out your flanks for criticism, for all kinds of shame and pain. But stay there. Stay with that process of processing that pain. Because when you process that pain, stay with it, then you understand the only way through, only way to the other side is through it. But the minute we build a wall, the minute we externalize this whole thing, which is what a lot of us do, then what we do is we pass the blame outside. We do not learn our lessons, and then we do not know our shortcomings, and we do not know how to work on that inner paradigm. And we set ourselves up for failure again and again and again. But to actually admit that, hey, this is my Achilles heel, this is my area where I am vulnerable, that is true courage. To actually show up in that arena, to actually understand that here are where my pitfalls lie. But she also says something very beautifully. She says, when you get there in the arena, remember there's going to be a lot of spectators, but 3 seats are absolutely guaranteed. And those seats are shame, scarcity. And what is scarcity? Really, am I important? Are my things in life and different goals really important? So, and shame. So these things, these 3, sorry, the third one, comparison, are these 3. So shame, scarcity, and comparison. These 3 spectators are going to be watching you. And there's a 4th seat, and that's the critic. But she says, don't fear the critic. Be aware of taking feedback, but don't fear the critic, because unless the critic actually allows themselves to be vulnerable and allows their guard down, they aren't in a position to tell you. And sometimes it is us who are our worst critics. So what then is real failure? If we're understanding all of this, what then is real failure? Real failure then is not these ups and downs that we're going to have in this entire process of life in trying to better ourselves. Not at all. Those are just signposts, like in a treasure hunt. Cool, cold, warm, getting warmer, warm, reaching your goal. They're just signposts. That's what they are. But what then is real failure? Real failure is when you don't know yourself. When you do not know what makes you tick. You do not know why you wake up every morning. When you actually want instant success. And in a world of instant today, and where everything is so instantaneous, this is something what people want all the time, not understanding that when you attach wings to a caterpillar, we produce a dysfunctional butterfly. It's only when that caterpillar undergoes that metamorphosis, changes into a cocoon, and that's where that entire change happens behind the scenes, in the depths, before that butterfly emerges. So if you want a quick fix, then without those failures, there's no way that you're going to actually achieve success. And that is real failure. And also real failure is when you are not courageous enough, when you allow this only one life that you will have in this avatar to actually shrink, not to expand, not to grab life in full measure, not to grab every experience, in the knowledge that with every experience, what comes in is a set of failures and successes. But to work with the process, that it doesn't matter what the outcome, I'm working with the process, that is then moving towards success. And what else is real failure? When we just are no longer relevant or current. When we have a use by date redundancy, when we don't have adaptability quotient, when we are not able to deal with adversity. And what better time actually to learn this than now, in what the world has been facing. So as a kid, my father, an army general, once told me a story of General Moltke, a German general, who, when talking to his officers said, "Gentlemen, the enemy has 3 options. It is going to use the 4th. And if we do not know that how to use that unpredictable to use ourselves in that manner when unpredictability comes in our face, is going to be real failure." So very quickly, I can see a note coming that I have only 5 minutes. I want to tell you of this story that everybody must have heard during the pandemic. Of course, 5 years ago, if hiring managers asked a candidate, what will you do 5 years hence? Where do you see yourself? Did they know? They will be working from home. There's going to be a paradigm shift. There's going to be this hybrid model. We would be having meetings like this. Did we know? We didn't. And this little story that came up during this time, and so bear with me for those who've heard it, is the bridge. The Choluteca Bridge in Honduras, which was built because this was a very it was an area prone for storms and typhoons. And so they called in the Japanese to build this fabulous bridge over the Choluteca River. And in 96, it was built. In 98, it was inaugurated. That year, Hurricane Mitch hit that entire area and ravaged it. But when it was everything subsided, they found that every other bridge but this one had broken. But when they looked further, they found the road leading to the bridge and the road leading away from the bridge were no longer there. And now the bridge led to nowhere. It was a bridge that led to nowhere. But more than that, the river over which the bridge was built had changed its course. So if we do not have the ability to adapt to adversity, then we definitely have set ourselves up for failure. So what then is real success? It is really knowing yourself. Can we please have the last slide, actually, the 3rd slide from here, next after this. So it's really working on yourself as a project, as the best project, building your own brand by knowing yourself, doing the inner work, knowing what is it that makes you tick, your area of purpose, building people skills, building emotional intelligence, perspectival intelligence, learning to deal with adversity, having the power of communication, professional competence, integrity, physical fitness, being able to project it all with the power of appearance, having a growth mindset. So having a growth mindset is understanding the power of yet. May I please have the last slide? Henceforth, in our talk to ourselves, how about using this powerful word yet? I can't do that. I can't do that yet. I don't know how. I don't know how yet. This isn't working. This isn't working yet. So on and so forth. And when we do this work and when we build our brand constructively, then we're setting ourselves up for success. Then we know that real success is showing up courageously and showing up in a manner where we know that it doesn't matter what the outcome, but the process is important. So I'd really like to end by reading this wonderful speech that the 26th President of the United States of America had read out in Sorbonne, and it became a classic. Please hear this. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. So I'll end by saying, treat life like an adventure. Grab experience in full measure. Treat life as a game. You know, in the game of chess, at the end of the game, the king and the pawn go back into the same box. So if we live with that kind of spirit, we will just understand that success and failure are two small jewels strung in the process of life. Thank you very much for joining me today. And now I'm looking forward to listening to the next speaker. Good luck, stay in the arena, stay courageous. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your experience and thoughts. Now, I would like to introduce the Mentor Mitr courses, programs for working professionals, Compass Pro course, 1 month, Habit Forming Pro course, 3 months. Second, programs for school students, Ensure Optimizer course, 12 months, Habit Formation course, 3 months, Compass course, 1 month. Third, programs for university students, Habit Formation course, 3 months, Compass course, 1 month. Programs for working professionals, Compass Pro course, 1 month of engagement, which helps you set right directions or course. Counseling sessions, SWOT analysis and personality assessment, analytical report based on above. Structured customized counseling 1-to-1, 1 hour with experts. Customized template for your career roadmap. Time tracker. Set up a self-awareness program. Flexible counseling sessions with mentors for total 2 times in a month. More features, free access to webinar during the month. Our support 24/7 chatbot facility.
Achal, you can move ahead. We can't hear you. I think there's some error. All right, so I'll introduce this program. So the University Students Program is the Compass course for direction setting. Now, this entails 1 month of engagement, and it also incorporates aspects of psychometric assessment, followed by counseling sessions that help you evaluate your aptitude and interests and help you kind of figure out the field that is appropriate for you post your graduation or maybe post graduation as well. It's also followed by a structured and customized counseling session, which is 1-to-1 with experts or mentors or even counseling psychologists. So that is based on your preference and needs. And we also have a time tracker for individuals in which they can plot their time. They can let us know where they've been spending their entire time, days, priorities, and so on. And then we have the tracks and options template, which helps you evaluate what options you can pick after your graduation. So these are really basic ones, and they're based on the career path that you're already on. Then we have flexible counseling sessions. Now, this directly corresponds to the structured, customized counseling sessions. And this also means that you can, so for example, if you have a 2-hour time during a month, you can schedule that in different periods or slots. So you can take it up for 15 minutes in one go, and then the rest of the counseling sessions can be taken up for half an hour and so on, as per your convenience. Then we have more features such as free access to our webinars, then the daily feed that is going to be available on the website. Next slide. All right. So Now we have the Compass course for direction setting, which also entails 1 month of engagement with school students. And here we have a psychometric assessment for individuals. This primarily entails battery tests, and that is followed by counseling sessions. And we also try to focus on the competitive abilities of an individual, and we try to understand their background environment, what are the factors that influence their academic performance at their schools. And then we have the structured customized counseling sessions with experts, mentors, and again, counseling psychologists. So that is need based. And the tracks and options template, this is specifically tailored so that they can map out the options post the streams that they have taken. So generally, in high school, people pick their streams and they wish to figure out, okay, now these are the two subjects that I like. What is the course then I can opt for? So that's generally how it goes. The time tracker again serves the same purpose of helping individuals evaluate how they're spending their time, how they're optimizing their priorities, and so on. And the flexible counseling sessions, yes, it goes the same way for other individuals as well. Then we have the free access to our webinars and then sessions, continuous support through our chatbot facilities, and so on. So the next slide. All right. So this is our Mentor Mitr app, which you can download on the Android devices only. Currently, it's not available on iOS. You can check out the following link to download the same. Next slide. Yeah, so this is the QR code. In case you're not able to access the link, then you can scan this and download it. Next slide. All right. So as I said, the app is only available on Play Store, which means Android devices, and the download is free of cost. However, the programs that I just briefly discussed are paid. The app is available in India, Philippines, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Italy, Malaysia, Nepal, Russia, Spain, and Thailand, amongst many other countries that have not been listed. And it will also be launched in other countries soon. You can download our app and get help in your career. You can optimize your performance and gain the life skills that you think are relevant and that we believe are relevant for your career growth. And if you have any queries, please feel free to reach out to us on contact@mentormitr.com or connect@mentormitr.com. Next slide. All right. So now we would like to introduce our second speaker for the evening, Ms. Savita Nanchapa. Ms. Savita is an award-winning business coach, founder of a global coaching platform, which is called Success with Savita. And she's also a podcast host, international speaker, and a contributor at Forbes. She's also the member of Forbes Coaches Council. As an internationally certified coach, she has coached over 150 plus businesses, 3,000 plus clients, and has 17 years of experience in the corporate domain in India, having worked with brands like Airtel, ICICI, Prudential, Tata Docomo, Novo Nordisk in sales, marketing, and customer experience. She has been featured in Forbes, ABC, Fox, CBS, Media Bulletin, and more. Most recently, she spoke at the Women's Economic Forum, Egypt, in March 2020. Ma'am, the floor is yours. You can start speaking. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mentor Mitr, for the opportunity, and thank you to all the audience who are showing up today. I'm not sure what your time zones are, but if it's Sunday evening, kudos to you for being here, showing up for yourselves, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you. Also, I think Nisha Gupta, the speaker who spoke earlier, made some wonderful points, so it's a hard act to follow, and I really enjoyed the talk. So before I begin, there is a question that I would like to ask you. Can I start by sharing my screen? Do I have the screen share access? Yes, it's working.
Yes, yes.
Okay, as we get started, I'm not sure if the audience can interact, but if they are and if you can share answers, it's great. All I want to know is how many of you have failed in any area of your life? And I would love to hear the answer, and I would love to hear anyone who hasn't failed at something, anything in their lives, and the team can share with me if the audience interacts. But moving on from that, I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. I hope you're able to see this. Yeah. Okay. So I know the topic today is success and failure. I'm not going to speak so much about success. I would like to talk about failure because I feel often we tend not to talk about failure, and somewhere we've made it not so great to keep talking about failures because we are all about the success. You look at social media, you look at everything else, look at just my own introduction, right? I put all the highlights of my career. So I'm not going to spend so much time on success, but yes, it's the same process, sure. I'm going to spend a lot of time around failure. For I'm just going to, yeah. Okay, so of course, the team at Mentor Mitr has already shared my introduction. What I primarily do is I work with entrepreneurs to help them launch, grow, and scale their businesses. A fun fact, I started my business as an image coach and consultant, and then I was working with people in corporate, and I was helping people in corporate build executive presence. And so failure, let's talk about failure. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of success. It's two sides of the same coin. You cannot say you've been successful because almost every successful person, and I think the answers, if you're able to interact, everyone would answer that we failed at something in life, but we don't speak about it enough. We don't, I'm not asking that we should romanticize it, but we need to speak about it because there's a whole lot of shame that is surrounding this word called failure. It's not good. And moving on from this quote, I wanted to share with you some very successful people. I think both of us would agree, all of us would agree, that very successful people have failed. So let's take a look at some of these people, right? And let's ask if they need to be ashamed of anything in their lives. Other than the fact that failure fueled them, right? So Steve Jobs was fired from his own company. We all know that story. Bill Gates, his first company failed. Ariana Huffington, while she has created the massive, she's one of the world's richest women and created Huffington Post. In fact, fun fact, when she launched Huffington Post, people actually gave her a lot of feedback saying it wasn't very good. She was rejected 36 times. James Dyson, we are hearing about the Dyson vacuum cleaner now, but he built 5,126 prototypes before the current version, which is the bag-free vacuum cleaner, and the company is worth $4.5 billion. Steven Spielberg, rejected from the School of Cinematic Arts, and he's a three-time Academy Award winner. Thomas Edison was told he was too stupid to learn. Walt Disney lacked imagination and creativity. Einstein was thought to be mentally handicapped and was asked to be removed from school. And J.K. Rowling was on welfare before there was a wizard, right? So, and she got rejected a number of times. The reason I'm sharing this is let's remind ourselves that everyone on the route to success or on the path to success, you're going to hit a lot of those speed bumps, the holes, the potholes on the road, and that's okay. And if you don't hit it, there's something wrong, right? That's what Elon Musk says. If you're not failing enough, you're not innovating enough. So let's have a quick look at what are the most successful, and all of us define successful differently, right? And it should ideally be different. It shouldn't be the same definition for anyone. All of us define success differently. For some of us, it is quality time. For some of us, it may be having a peaceful life. For some of us, it may be luxury, abundance, never having to think about money. For some of us, it's recognition. And for a lot of people, it is about impact. How are you changing the world one at a time? And let's take a look at how the world in general measures success. And often that is by money. And I want to quickly show this video to you. I'm just going to stop share for a minute and I'm going to share. So let's have a look at how successful, the world's richest people are successful or have failed. Okay. With that, just give me a moment. Okay, I hope you guys are able to hear me now. And I'm going to go back to the presentation I had. So what's interesting, some interesting names came up, and there was Anil Ambani, and of course he doesn't feature now. So success is so transient. It's there one day, it's gone the next day. And exactly how success goes up and down, failure goes up and down as well. So the way to approach life is to look at it as being two sides of the same coin. And I'm going to share a few tips on how to deal with failure. But before that, I want to share my own story of failure. Growing up, I'm in my 40s now, but growing up, typical family where education was really important. And my parents were always about, you have to do well at school, you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And my mom went the extra mile and said, you have to be top 3 in your class. Otherwise, you're not really considered to be doing well. And I think this is true for a lot of Indian families, Asian families. And this went on. We did well at school, maybe out of fear, I'm not really sure. And then college happened. I went on to get my first job. I did my MBA from Manipal. And then I went on to get my first job, which was with a pharmacy company, Novo Nordisk. And I was like, oh, I've arrived. And then I continued to do well. I was always a bit type-paced, so I continued to do well at work. And then, I grew because I did well. I got recognized. And to reach a time in my career, as I changed organizations, I moved on to telecom. There was a time in my corporate career, that I would get headhunted, I would get recognized, and people would be like, I want her for this role. So it all went to my head. And for me, I was like a star player. I brought a lot of value to the table, and success was something that came quite easily to me. I hadn't known failure until then, at least not failure in the way I did my work. So then comes 2010, I think late 2009, I got headhunted for this really plum role that a lot of people in my industry were chasing at that time. So 6 months into this company, it was a great job. There were different things that were happening over there, but 6 months into the company, I was fired. And that was something that I had never expected. My family and a lot of families that I know, I'm in Bangalore, you're either a doctor or an engineer or disgrace to your family. That's what the famous comedian in Bangalore likes to refer our our culture as, right? So what happened was, I had never planned to fail, and I didn't know what it meant to fail. And then when failure hit me and I was fired, it was the most shocking, it was the most shameful thing that happened to me, because how could I was headhunted into this role. So how could I have, this happened to me? So I remember walking up to my table, packing my bag that day. And it just came like a bolt out of the blue. And there's a backstory. But what happened was, I packed my bags, and the first thought that came to my head was, I'm so humiliated. I can't face the world. I don't want to live anymore. I mean, nothing else mattered. I just didn't want to face anyone. So I remember I started driving, and I was driving around aimlessly the whole day. And I was thinking, oh my God, like, how do I even find what's the best and easiest and most painless way to kill myself? And, watch too many movies, didn't know any better. I thought, okay, there's this hill, maybe I can drive off my car. Very, very, it's hilarious in hindsight, but that's what happened to me. But then, I went back home, and then I got my previous job before I got headhunted to this role. I got my previous job back within the same month. I was back, but I never recovered from that. To me, it was shame, and I lost my confidence. So when people would ask me for my opinion, until then I had an opinion. I knew how things had to be done. I was always future thinking, and suddenly I would be like, I have nothing to say. I mean, what do I know? I'm the person who got fired. And that's the thing, right? This all comes and stems from shame. I was so ashamed of what had happened to me that I actually spiraled into depression. I spiraled into doing a really lousy job, actually, on back into this job, but I wasn't doing very well. I knew it, even if nobody noticed it. And all of that changed, of course, 3 years later when my daughter was born, and I decided that this wasn't what I wanted, and this is not who I wanted to be for my child anymore. And I had to like really work hard on myself, my mindset. To recover from that, I quit my job, and then I actually started thinking about my next move, my purpose, and what I wanted to do next. And a couple of years later, I started my image consulting business, and then I kind of moved into life and business coaching. So that's my story. And the reason that I'm sharing the story is not for anything else. There was a time when I hit rock bottom. And there was a time that today, when I look back on my career, I've done so many things. My dream was always to be a Forbes contributor, which I am today. And it's crazy how life turns out. So the reason I share the story is because to all of you, you are going to have your version of rock bottom, but can you use that rock bottom to propel yourself, to kick off from there so you can actually move forward? And for that, I want to actually share some tips in dealing with failure. Do I not fail anymore? Every day. I fail every day. But if you're an entrepreneur, you fail every day, okay? You get rejected every day. Clients reject you. People reject you. I have a podcast. I reach out to many guests. Somebody rejects you. So rejection is a real thing. It happens every day. But it doesn't faze me. Not because I've seen failure, but because I've learned how to deal with it. And it's okay. I don't make it something more than it is meant to be. I use it to just keep moving forward. So if there's one thing that you take away from my talk today, fail forward. Just keep this word in mind. Just fail forward. It's okay. Bad things happen. Things don't go your way. Face that emotion. But what fail forward means is, what is the lesson you took away from that failure, and how can you use it so you can actually course correct? How can you use it so you have progress instead of chasing perfection? And often the thing with failure is we allow it to hold us down for far too long. You want to be able to take the hits, but get up and still keep moving forward. So the one word that I want to leave you with is fail forward. But the fact is, we are all human. It hurts, especially the first time. It gets better. I will tell you, it gets better with time. And remember, rejection is actually redirection. It wasn't meant to be. So, you redirect your efforts, you redirect your resources to something else. And the reason I shared about all of these people who are all success stories, if they didn't get up and keep going over and over and over again, you wouldn't have all the greatest inventions that we see in the world today. Okay, so accept that it hurts, recognize your emotions, and take some time, deal with it, move on. Don't make it personal, be objective. It's not something. The thing about failure is we think, oh, this always happens to me. So it's really important to not make it personal and watch your self-talk. What are the things that you're saying to yourself? I'm always like this always happens to me, I always fail, nothing goes right for me. You've got to watch that. You can't say those things to yourself, because you are your only friend most often. You've got to tell yourself these things. And instead say, yeah, it happened this time. What can I learn from it? How can I do better next time? So I haven't added this in this list of dealing with failure, but one of the things that I want to share is ask a better question. How can I do this so I don't continue to fail? Okay. So ask better questions. And I'm not going to talk about growth mindset versus fixed mindset, because actually Nisha has covered that and beautifully. Yes, use the word, I'm not ready yet, but how can I be ready for this tomorrow? Take only the right amount of responsibility. You don't need to be responsible for your failures, for things that others may have contributed to. Look at only your role in it. And remember, it's hard, but what people think is not important. This is the hardest one, because we always care about what people think, right? That's where the shame, that's where the feeling of being, like rejected and what do people say and all of this comes. You've got to know that you can't think about what people will say. You've got to think about what are you saying about yourself. And sometimes check your ego. So often what's hurt is the ego. And the thing about failure is speak up, embrace it, speak about it, say what you learned about it. Today, I could have not shared that I got fired, because what would people think about how I am and my qualities and my abilities and my capabilities? Embrace it, share what you learned from it, because just once there might be just someone who needed to hear that, okay, this person also had it, they didn't have it all easy. Social media makes it easy for you to think that everyone had it easy, but Narayan Murthy once said that it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. And so, it's okay, your ego is hurt, just move on, keep the needle moving forward. And let's make sure that we talk about failure in the mainstream and not something that is hidden. And before I let you go, I know I think I'm running out of time, but remember, Winston Churchill said, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And that's the only thing that you need to take away from this. And then before I let you go and before we look at questions, I do want to share this story. It's my favorite story. I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, and I love the fact that, he had the vision to put people in space, to send private spacecrafts into space. And nobody believed him. They said, this guy is crazy. He started to send spacecraft. He was really rich. He had a huge payout when he sold PayPal, right? And he put a spacecraft into space. And the time that his spacecrafts were failing, and every time the rockets would fail, he was also failing at Tesla, which is today a success. And actually, his last rocket when he launched, which actually became a success, was when he was literally down to his last like 20 million. And that's the money that he finally put in. So are you able to stay true to your dream and your vision, that irrespective of the fact that you believe in it so strongly that even if you have failures, you continue to keep moving ahead and you still go for it because you have such strong belief in your vision? That's a question. And that's a story I want to leave you with, that somebody sees a vision that no one else could see. None of us thought of putting people in space, but he did. And he has now successfully launched a rocket. They still may have troubles, but they keep trying every single day. One of the things about spacecraft, SpaceX, is they create prototypes literally every week. So that's my takeaway for you is nothing is permanent. Everything goes up and down. And all you've got to remember is it's okay to fail forward, take the lesson away. And with that, I will say thank you. And you can connect with me on Instagram, LinkedIn, or on my podcast, where we have a very popular podcast. So choose to join me in over there. And with that, I'll say thank you. Thank you to Mentor Mitr. And I'm looking forward to listening to your questions.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your insights. Now we would like to move on with the questionnaire answer section. So
Sure.
our first question is, how do you forget the past and take a step ahead? Savita ma'am, could you please take this question?
Sure. It's hard to forget the past, right? And that's the problem, though. We always stay in the past, or we are future thinking. And this is where I would like you to be more mindful in your approach. Can we stay in the present? So how can you may not, it takes work, it takes deep work to quit the overthinking. But if you can really rationally break it down and say, this is what hurt me, this is what I'm dealing with, I've got to go through it. The thing about pain is you can't avoid it. You have to go through it and then you come out stronger, right? So sometimes you can be very successful at putting it away, but work it through. My favorite tool for this is journaling. I like to journal through what's going on, where am I at? Another thing is to check in with myself emotionally, answer questions as rationally as I can. And often you've got to think about, how can I move forward, having taken the lessons, and who do you need to forgive? Often you need to forgive yourself. So that's my advice to you. Forgive yourself, tell yourself it's okay, motivate yourself, see other examples of people who've been able to move forward and continue moving forward. If all you need to do is take one step, I'm not saying go from 0 to 100, one step forward every single day. That's my response to this question.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer. Moving on to the second question. This is for you, Nisha ma'am. So the question is, how do you stand up in situations where you see that the fear of failure is more than success?
So, I'll tell you that little story about the eagle that builds its nest on the top of a very high crag, and her fledglings are now ready to fly, and she's nudging them out. But before that thrill of flying is that fear of dying. So each one of us actually, before we get that success, there is that fear exactly how Savita said, that fear of showing up, that fear of judgment, the fear of if we fail, what happens, what do I answer, the shame, all the things attached to it. But the answer again lies in something Savita answered so beautifully earlier, that if I am very clear, there will be critics, there will be everything, there will be fear. But if I am true to my purpose, if I am true to my belief in what I am doing, then I am going to step out of myself. Of course, we all need someone who will, prop us a little. So here is where friends and a network kind of works for us. But if we are true to our belief and our purpose, a little bit of fear, like butterflies in your stomach, works in your favor, and then your support system does. But stay true to your belief and your conviction of the purpose and your intent in what you're doing. And that's how I would move forward. Would you like to add to that, Savita?
I think you answered that perfectly. I think I couldn't have answered it better. That was beautifully said. Um, yeah,
Moving on.
all I do want to add, of course, is that, you know what, everyone's afraid of failure. It's always there. But can your fear, but can your vision be bigger than the fear? Fear is always going to be, if nobody overcomes it. You can hit 60 and people tell me that you still are afraid. But is the purpose, the vision bigger? That's the only thing you've got to ask. So, yeah.
True.
Thank you, ma'am, for the answer. So the next question is, most of us take a longer period in accepting the failure. So how do we accept the failure in a healthy manner? Savita ma'am, you can go ahead.
I think, like I shared earlier, ask the better question, because most of the times you're not able to accept it is because either you don't believe that this should have happened to you, or you believe that, oh, I did something so wrong that I can't just seem to get over it. And often the fear is, if I do it again and I fail again, what will I do? So what? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Here's a great story. People always tell me, I reached out to a few clients and nobody got back to me. So it was anyway no before, or they'll be like, if I reach out to this person and if they say no, what happens? It was already no. You didn't even get started. It was already a no for you, but you asked. And here's the thing, right, about failure, and the universe is here to support you. If you start to take action, mini steps, you will find a great response back. You will be supported. So start with your mindset. Tell yourself it's okay. Ask the better questions. And in time, maybe you want to accept it 100%, and that's okay. But can you get to a 10? Can you get to a 20? Can you get to a 30? You will take a longer time in the first failure, but trust me, it gets better. Yeah, Nisha, I mean, go ahead.
No, you've answered it all. And all I can add, if there is anything to add at all, there isn't, is that, I think that again, there's a lot of conditioning that we carry from us and the older generations, but their paradigms, their circumstances, their environment, and what they faced was very different. And yes, there is a lot more competition now, but I also think the world has become far more conscious about, mentally aware of these kind of things like vulnerability, and therefore no longer are people as ashamed of owning and saying things as openly like you very rightly shared, or if I could get up on this platform and say something about my childhood, or you could, simply because we've understood that there could be someone else who could benefit from that. And I think that today connections have become a mainstay, and that's how the world is going to move forward. We shouldn't fear failure at all.
Heading forward to our last question for this webinar. So the question is, can we create a new journey irrespective of failures and success? Nisha ma'am, would you like to take this question?
Sorry, I didn't hear that very clearly.
Yes, ma'am. So the question is, can we create a new journey irrespective of failures and success?
Can we create a new journey?
Yes, ma'am.
So, all of us have our own individual journey that we live. In the form that we are unique, and no one else is going to be able to live that journey. There'll be similar experiences, but they cannot be the same experience, simply because our inner realm and our inner paradigm and our experiences, our conditioning is completely different. And how we process what we go through also depends on our mind state, our life state, and how we deal with situations. So if you mean, can we create a similar journey for anybody? No, we cannot create a similar journey. But in the new journey that we can create, yes, we can. Like I said, I created some little phrases. And if we want to talk about a failure as just another thing in the process of reaching our goals, is something that is like an impetus or spurring us on, perhaps we can create a new vocabulary. But if we can create a new journey, that will still remain individual, and how we process it. Yes, how we teach it to the youth, and how we embrace it, and how we normalize and neutralize it, is how we can create a new normal to this whole thing. Savita, please add to that.
No, I think you answered it. My simple answer to that question is yes, always yes. You can always create a new journey, irrespective of, success and failure.
Thank you so much, Nisha ma'am and Savita ma'am, for your time. This really helped us a lot. I would like to thank all our speakers as well as the audience for giving us their time and support. Thank you for attending and engaging in this today's session with us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Before concluding the webinar, lastly, I would like to repeat the steps to avail the e-certificate. Attend the complete webinar. When you see thank you on the screen, there will appear a link to Google attendance form in the chat box. Click to mark your attendance and get the feedback questionnaire emailed. Fill the questionnaire you get on mail for your details. Follow our page. Whether you did or not is also in the questionnaire. If you did and replied in affirmative and actually did not follow our page, you will not get the e-certificate. If all the above stated steps are followed, automatically an e-certificate will be issued online to you within 24 to 48 hours. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so
very
much.
much. Thank you.
You can get in touch with us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also visit our website, contact us, and email us with your queries, feedback, or suggestion. We are here to help you with the right guidance. Thank you for attending the webinar. Once again, I thank you, Nisha ma'am and Savita ma'am, for this insightful session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you and all the best to everyone. And with that, I will sign off. Have a wonderful Sunday evening and a great start to your next week.
Thank you, ma'am.